Land is known globally as a factor of production. This implies that land is a means of livelihood to individuals, families, communities, and a key contributor to the development of most African countries. These developments on land, especially subsistence agriculture in Africa, is largely undertaken by women whose land rights are considered secondary in the African context. It is estimated that women in Africa contribute up to 70% of food production and nearly half of all farm labor. But what is more disheartening is the fact that these women lack security on land and oftentimes are deprived of their rights to land ownership. This is because most cultures consider the boy children to inherit their father's property at the expense of the girl children. They believe that when girls get married, they belong to another clan and are expected to own land from their husbands. Unfortunately, even the few women who receive land from their husbands and parents have it grabbed from them by their relatives. However, these negative cultural prejudices contradict with the Holy Bible and Articles 26 and 33 of the 1995 Uganda Constitution, which emphasize property ownership as a right for all mankind.
The Bible clearly states that we are all equal, whether we're women or men, Gentiles or Jews. We are all God's people, we are all equal, and so it is very fitting and right for women to also possess property. It is, I think, a matter of educating. People have a mentality of thinking that everything belongs to the man and that the wife is the second party into the family. No. For us, we know that a family is for a husband and a wife, so when the husband dies, the wife should take full ownership.
Every Ugandan is free to own land. A woman is equal to a man, and we have said this before. So women should also own the land. And we have been saying this, sensitizing the women. Land, if it is family land, it should be owned by both. The woman should have a right over that land, just like the husband does. It is wrong for anybody to come up and violate the rights of the woman over land. And of course, the systematic demarcation of the land that the ministry has started will in a way address this, because the women out there, we have widows with their families, and once we have demarcated the land, surveyed it and given them their title, then that is to me security to the women and the children down there in the villages.
If women's rights to access, own and utilize land are human rights not granted, why then do women continue to be treated with such disgrace? Many of such women have been helped by the Uganda Land Alliance and her sister partner organizations and individuals to defend their rights to own land.
For Uganda Land Alliance, it's critical that the nation at last recognizes that the rights of women on land are important and significant. One, because land is the major production asset and women are the users of this land. 80% of the agricultural labor force is made up of women. And at the end, when it comes to controlling proceeds, women have almost nothing to show for all their hard work.
One of the reasons why they don't use the land to make themselves better is because they don't have any decisions. They don't make any decisions on that same land. So what we are trying to do is to create awareness. If Uganda has to develop, women have to be part of the development. And so women must own the resources that contribute to that development, one of which being land.
Uganda Land Alliance is a consortium of national and international NGOs that lobby and advocate for fair land laws and policies to address land rights of the poor, disadvantaged, and vulnerable groups as well as individuals in Uganda. The alliance was set up in 1995 as a non-governmental, independent, and autonomous legal entity. It envisages Ugandan society where there is equitable access and control over land, and where the poor women, men, and children actively participate in eradicating poverty. Uganda Land Alliance adopts a rights-based approach in addressing inequalities against women by interpreting both legal and customary law in light of the international human rights instruments that provide a neutral ground for engagement. Through its land rights centers, paralegal programs, and working with member organizations, Uganda Land Alliance offers litigation and sensitizes communities to understand the law and women's rights as a means of economic empowerment. However, the number of women requiring such support simply overwhelms the available capacity. While Uganda Land Alliance needs increased capacity to bring a smile on the faces of hundreds of suffering women in many parts of the country, the organization calls upon government to quickly implement policies that reduce the number of new cases being registered.
Uganda has made several international commitments through agreements that they will support or promote the rights of women on land, and we're not seeing this coming into existence. We see the Constitution explicitly saying men and women are equal before, during and after marriage. But in terms of land ownership, we are not seeing progress being made towards making this equality come into being. So this documentary is a way to encourage and to start up a campaign to say, look here, government of Uganda, you made commitments and you must fulfill these commitments.
Several women in Uganda today face challenges of land ownership, especially in rural areas. The problem is being escalated by ignorance of communities and lower local governments.
I don't know whether LCs need refresher courses, training on... Actually, this would be a needs assessment. Our local council committees and chairpersons need to be sensitized as to what they can do and what they shouldn't do. Because land is a matter of life. The most valuable thing, the claims are there and you're playing in land. At the end, after the LC's decision, somebody's coming up with trespass, malicious damage to property. A lot of criminal cases coming up because of a single land case, which would have been disposed of once and for all.
While 83% of women in Uganda are engaged in agricultural production and over 90% in food production and processing, only 25.5% own or control land that they cultivate. This therefore underpins women's ability to feel secure in their homes, make income, and participate effectively. 61-year-old Ganyana Florence is a single mother and grandmother looking after orphans in Hoima district. She was born outside wedlock, and when her stepmother divorced, Ganyana took care of her father, who had fallen seriously sick. Ganyana's father later died but left a will allocating property to all his children, with Ganyana inheriting a house and part of the land. This inheritance became the source of conflict between Ganyana, her stepmother, and brothers. Her stepmother and brothers could not believe that a woman is inheriting their marital home. They then engaged Ganyana in court battles, but because she could not afford paying a private lawyer, Ganyana sought for free legal services.
The prejudices and historical perspective that were held by her brothers that women should not inherit the property of their father, at least was put aside, because at the end of the day the property was shared in equal shares. Ganyana took her portion, though of course against the will, but at least she took her portion, a reality underground, meaning Ganyana has benefited as a daughter. Even if she was a wife somewhere, she ended up being a beneficiary in the estate of her late father. Presently, she's not destitute, she's not homeless. Nobody will threaten her with eviction in the little portion